Today we're bringing you an exclusive look at one of the year's biggest games, Assassin's Creed Origins.
Revealing the tips to win big in competitive Pokemon, and taking you inside the new Call of Duty Zombies campaign.
This is the IGN Show!
Wait a minute, you wore gray? Yeah, I wore gray.
I did.
I mean, she wore gray.
Yep.
She wore gray too.
Hello, and welcome to the IGN Show. I'm William Haynes, and this is Naomi Kyle. We're a buddy cop movie waiting to happen and get funded.
Yep, coming up, we get an IGN first. The developers of Assassin's Creed Origins reveal a behind-the-scenes look at the creation of an ancient city. Plus, we'll review Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, the standalone game that features Chloe Nadine. Take a seat, Nathan Drake.
Then we'll take you inside the new Call of Duty Zombies campaign, which plays like a monster movie from the 60s. And later we'll get our hands and knees and beg Nintendo to port games over to the Nintendo Switch. We need more things to play.
But first, it's time to get owned by Pikachu.
You can play Pokemon games for hundreds and hundreds of hours just filling out your Pokédex, and that's totally cool. But things get real crazy when you start playing against each other.
Yeah, competitive Pokemon has a steep learning curve, and new players can get wiped out faster than you can say Bulbasaur. So if you want to up your game, IGN's Casey DeFreitas can help.
Getting the best Pokemon for competitive battling requires insurmountable knowledge, time, and patience, and it all involves some secret, hidden values only recently revealed in-game. Base stats are the backbone of every Pokemon. Check out Pikachu, for example. Its stats tell us it's fast and can't take physical hits well. Blissey, on the other hand, is incredibly slow but has a massive HP pool and fantastic special defense. Even Pikachu's Electro Ball special attacks won't phase a Blissey. Beyond these set tendencies, 3 different factors affect how a Pokemon's stats will grow. The first is a Pokemon's nature, which not only represents the personality of a Pokemon, but tells us what a Pokemon is naturally good at. The next aspect to consider are individual values, or IVs. These are secret stats Pokemon are born with. If a Pikachu has a perfect speed IV, it has the potential to be the speediest a Pikachu can be. You can't see these hidden values in Pokemon Sun or Moon until you've beaten the Elite Four, hatched 20 eggs, and spoken to the Ace Trainer at the Battle Tree. Now that you have a Pokemon with a good nature and desirable IVs, like a timid Pikachu with fantastic or best IVs for everything but attack, you can customize your Pikachu further. Do this by earning effort values, or EVs. If Pikachu defeats an especially fast Pokemon, like a Zubat, it will earn 1 EV toward its speed stat. So, how do you get a Pokemon with the right nature and IVs anyway? Generally, you breed. When it comes down to it, there's a lot to think about when training the perfect Pokemon. For a more detailed step-by-step guide on creating Pokemon that are sure to crush your friends, definitely start at the beginner's guide to competitive Pokemon on IGN's Pokemon Sun and Moon Wiki.
Well, we'll have more coverage for the Pokemon World Championships next week, but for now, let's send it over to James for some Assassin's Creed goodness.
When you hear the word Memphis, you probably think of the great city in Tennessee, blues music, and Elvis Presley. But little known fact, the city also shares a name with the capital of the Old Kingdom of Egypt, which is a central location in Assassin's Creed Origins. That Memphis has been painstakingly recreated in the game. You can see how in this IGN First.
The city of Memphis that you're going to play in this game is an old city. It's about 3,000 years old already. So you have new buildings, you have older buildings, palaces, temples. Some of them are in ruined state, some of them are in a very pristine state. So it's a very interesting contrast to see all of these different traditions from ancient Egypt into the same city.
We had a challenge when we created the artistic direction of the city. We wanted to push the diversity in the city, we wanted to push the contrast in the city also because the immersion is very important for the player, you know, going from one district to the other, feel maybe the oppressive, magnificent scale of the Temple of Ptah, you know, overlooking all the small mud brick house in this, you know, kind of districts. So this kind of contrast was really interesting to bring to life when we created the city.
Because the city of Memphis is very old, because it used to be the place where the pharaohs were being crowned at or lived at, there are a lot of artisans in the city of Memphis. And so the city is rich with people who have their own agenda, who have their schedules, who have things to do, and populate that city and make it very believable of ancient Egypt.
What is very interesting about the surroundings of Memphis is that it's not only sand, you have also a very lush environment. You have palm trees, on a very large and vast distance, but also all the wheat fields. You have the Nile Delta, the Nile River, but it's only a part of the biomes we can visit in Egypt.
When visiting Memphis, I think players will really like to visit that huge city, which is really a dream for us to recreate, because it's a city that has totally disappeared today. For me, it's really a wonderful experience to be able to bring this old Egypt into the hands of the players, and for them to be able to walk around these sites, see these landmarks, see royal palaces, impressive places that don't exist anymore.
Coming up on the IGN Show, the ladies take center stage in Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, and we'll have a review.
Plus, the games we want to see come over to the Nintendo Switch, a look inside Call of Duty's new zombie campaign, and conclusive proof why Overwatch is just the best. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the IGN Show. A lot of video games have downloadable content that's pretty forgettable, like a weird costume or some extra gun you'd never use anyway. Uncharted 4 is going a different route. They have a standalone game with 2 fan favorite characters taking center stage. Here's our review of The Lost Legacy.
This standalone adventure is packed with the beautiful vistas, exciting action, and memorable characters we expect from an Uncharted game, but the familiarity of it all made Lost Legacy feel more like a by-the-numbers summer blockbuster than the milestone events that came before it. I had a distinct sense of déjà vu with nearly every action scene of Lost Legacy. Every shootout against mindless paramilitary dudes, every wall I had to climb and shimmy across, and every floaty driving sequence felt directly lifted out of Uncharted's 1 through 4. One of the ideas that does feel fresh is the occasional puzzles that block the path. Solutions often require careful observation of the world around you for environmental clues, which I always love doing considering just how stupidly gorgeous Naughty Dog's depiction of India is. The game knows how to draw your eye towards the smallest detail, which is a testament to the art, lighting, and camera work in cinematics. Lost Legacy looks and sounds spectacular in gameplay too. It's peppered with those iconic gameplay moments that make you feel like you're in control of a giant Hollywood action scene. I love how these thrilling sections always gave me a sensation of scrambling along the edge of a knife, barely surviving in one piece, even though they're largely scripted. The one gameplay area where Lost Legacy tries to switch things up is in its second act, when it goes open world, and we're given the largest play space the Uncharted series has ever seen. But no matter how beautiful this area is, and holy moly is it gorgeous, it's empty when it comes to things to do, and frankly boring. A good open world map promotes and rewards exploration and curiosity. Uncharted seemed to actively punish those things by filling the environment with surfaces that appear climbable but aren't, jumps that appear surmountable but inevitably lead to death, and there's no real incentive for poking around the world. For a game that's ultimately about a group of people trying to find treasure, I was disappointed to walk away from this open world experiment empty-handed. The main element that continued to propel me forward through the adventure is the fantastic dynamic between Chloe and Nadine. I really love the fact that Naughty Dog took these 2 side characters from past games and put them front and center in this pressure cooker. Exploring their backgrounds, discovering their motivations, and watching them grow was simply fantastic. It's remarkable how well the pair handle shifts between somber moments of gravity and light comedic interludes.
So it's not that I hate Nathan Drake or anything, but I am excited to see Uncharted go in a new direction character-wise. You got to play it. What did you think?
I really like the dynamic between Chloe and Nadine. They have very different characters, but it's also just really cool to see more of Chloe, who is a fan favorite that we haven't seen in a little while. So now it's time to talk about the Nintendo Switch. It is a great system, and you can't overstate how nice it is to be able to play on your TV and continue your games on the go.
That's true, but there is one problem. I just want a bigger library. Over the next year, the library will slowly grow, emphasis on slowly, but that process will be expedited if they start porting over older titles.
There's a ton of games you want to play on the Switch, and here's a few that should come over.
With the Nintendo Switch blowing up since launch, it's no secret that publishers will want to be porting their games to the new hybrid, and there are plenty of big titles that would work well with the handheld and at-home nature of the console. Here's a list of games we would love to see ported to the Nintendo Switch. When the list of developers working with Nintendo was first shown off, many were excited to see From Software in the group. While we've yet to see anything from the creators of Dark Souls yet, we haven't given up hope that Dark Souls 3 will make its way to the Switch, especially since now all the DLC is complete. What better way to bring a game to a new platform than with a version that includes all the new content as well? With the recent news of both Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 heading to the Switch, it's a good sign Nintendo is welcoming horror games into their library. Resident Evil 7 could be the perfect addition to the fold, as its standalone nature won't confuse newcomers to the series, and it may even be able to incorporate motion controls to help with the first-person aiming. The saga of Clementine and The Walking Dead is coming to a close with the announcement of a final season, which makes this a great time to catch up new players on the Nintendo Switch by porting every season as a bundle pack so that they can enjoy the full experience. With Telltale's Minecraft adventure already on Nintendo's new console, we know it works, even if The Walking Dead is a little less family-friendly. While Blizzard hasn't worked with Nintendo since the days of StarCraft 64, Hearthstone could be the perfect fit for the Nintendo Switch. The accessible interface made for iPads and iOS devices could work well on the Switch in handheld mode, and the card game could potentially flourish on the go or at home as it does on other devices. Assassin's Creed has already dipped its toes in the waters of Nintendo with Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag, but the Wii U couldn't quite keep pace with other games in the series. Assassin's Creed The Ezio Collection is a great way to introduce Switch owners to some of the greatest titles in the Assassin's Creed franchise, and considering the studio responsible may be working on an unannounced port, why not this one? Technically, The Wonderful 101 already enjoyed its time on a Nintendo platform, but it can't be ignored that many people who never owned a Wii U missed out on it. With Platinum Games' history of working with Nintendo, it would be a shame if this action-packed adventure didn't get another chance to shine. Fans of Batman were treated to a slightly altered port of Arkham City on the Wii U, but that was only part of Batman's story in the Arkham series. Though it may be too much of a powerhouse for the Switch to handle, especially in handheld mode, it would be great to see Arkham Knight running on the Switch, and if it can't be done, then the Return to Arkham collection would be a great runner-up. South Park's humor is crazy, raunchy, and unabashed, and most likely at odds with Nintendo's family-friendly looks. However, if the Switch is looking to bring in a more diverse audience, Nintendo's great relationship with Ubisoft would make South Park: The Stick of Truth, and even its upcoming sequel, a great addition to the library, and its simplistic design wouldn't be as taxing on the hardware as other big AAA games. There was a time when Nintendo consoles were the destination for Final Fantasy games, and now seems like as good a time as any to make that return. Final Fantasy XV's huge open world might make this dream a tad unreasonable considering the Switch's hardware, but if it can, it would be right at home alongside Zelda and upcoming JRPGs coming to the Switch.
Now that's an awesome list. There's a lot of Switch titles you could have or imagine to have on the Switch. Which ones would you go for?
One, Pokemon Snap. I've been asking for that since the 3DS, but actually I think Persona would be awesome. Just a really, really long JRPG, but it does seem unlikely.
Yeah, also unlikely is probably like Red Dead Redemption or any of the Arkham games, but we're hopeful. All right, the IGN Show is back with all new episodes every night next week, so make sure to set your DVR so you don't miss one.
After the break, we'll talk about why Overwatch, IGN's 2016 Game of the Year, is so darn good, and what games have a shot at taking the crown this year.
Plus, the developers of the new Call of Duty Zombies campaign walk us through their latest horror movie-inspired adventure. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the IGN Show. Whether you're a PC gamer or a console warrior, you're bound to notice that your friends list is always full of people playing Overwatch. It's not just because the staff of IGN voted and named it Game of the Year in 2016, joining classics like Halo, Half-Life 2, and Fallout 3. Here's a few reasons why the game is still so popular.
I think without question, one of the strongest points of Overwatch is its accessibility. Anybody can get into this game.
And see incremental growth each time you play. That's something that Overwatch does better than any other game that I've played before.
Even though I don't have, super great twitch reflexes, even though I'm not a great shooter player, I can succeed with a character like Junkrat, or I can succeed with a character like Symmetra. I can still run around, have a great time with my friends, and really help my team win.
I think the more time you spend with a game like Overwatch, you're peeling back these layers and finding more and more strategy in a game that, on a surface level, seems pretty straightforward.
It's essentially Bushnell's Law. It's easy to learn, but really difficult to master.
Every gun is just a joy to shoot, and every ability is just such a joy to activate. Every ultimate just feels fantastic, and there's no shortcut to that. That just takes years and years and years of Blizzard testing and refining the game until they got it just right. No one character is more overpowered than another individually, and even when they get together as a team, you can see crazy, wild combinations of special powers and abilities firing off. And despite thousands and thousands of hours of play, they've never found a combination that's just completely dominates. We're still seeing different strategies ebb and flow, and people figure out the best way through the maps and figure out the best team compositions.
I really love that feeling of your team all working together when it suddenly clicks and all of a sudden you have the capture point. There's nothing like that.
In a shooter, you don't expect happy characters. You expect war-torn, grizzled, gruff people spouting one-liners. In Overwatch, everyone seems to have this weird sort of Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic. Everyone's slightly overblown, everyone's slightly silly, they make jokes. It's just pleasant to be with them, and that's why it's such a successful creation.
They have so much complexity and depth to them outside of the game that if you really care about, you can go find and read about. And of course, there's the amazing fandom around Overwatch.
The community, I think, has been a huge, huge part of its success as well. Like just the ability to project yourself onto these characters and just the amount of fan art that has come from it.
It's incredibly hard to put story into a multiplayer-focused game. The personality they put into them really make them shine through as a wider, diverse sort of class of characters that you don't see that often.
You play the game, you watch the animated shorts, and you read the comic, and they all sort of synergize to create this really in-depth and really thoughtful narrative.
They've really layered this impressive world that is just blooming and growing and expanding, and I can't wait to see where they go with that narrative.
We're well into 2017 and everyone is still grinding out loot boxes in Overwatch. But the real question is, what are the games that have a shot at taking home IGN's Game of the Year this year?
Myself, I love PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I played it on PC, and it's just fantastic. It takes this whole genre, which was kind of the survival genre that evolved into a Battle Royale mod, which was synonymous with underdevelopment and early access and bugs and all this stuff, and Bluehole, which is the name of the developer, absolutely nailed it. They came out of the gate with a fully functional game that runs smoothly, that is getting weekly patch content and then monthly content updates like new guns, new weapons, all this stuff. They've thought everything through in terms of like fall damage, which is almost non-existent, all these different systems that you would think would be just not thought of. They know how to make a really good Battle Royale game. What about yours?
For me, it is definitely The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This game just had so many things that I wasn't expecting and so many things to latch onto, and it's just such a creative open world, and it's very hard to go back to games where you can't climb everything at this point because I got so used to it. There's a lot of layers. I put hundreds of hours into it. Absolutely loved it.
So, what about stuff that hasn't potentially released just yet?
I think Mario is going to be a huge hit, especially in this office. It won our game show at E3. People are really, really excited about it, and it's another 3D Mario, so it's definitely exciting. How about you?
For me, I think it's probably Destiny 2 is the game I'm looking forward to most. When I talk to all my PC friends about what they're excited for, Destiny 2 kind of falls into that shared world shooter MMO space and looks to hopefully be learning a lot of lessons from the first game. So while I had my problems with the first game, I'm really excited to see where the second one lands. All right, coming up next, we'll get down to what everyone needs at the end of the day, a good old-fashioned zombie mayhem.
And the developers of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare explain the secrets and style of their new zombie campaign right after this.
Welcome back to the IGN Show. The first time Call of Duty had a zombie mode, it was a surprise bonus players unlocked after beating the game, and it had a pretty simple setup. Over the years, the mode has grown in size and scope, and now pays homage to classic monster movies from all eras. IGN associate producer Mark Medina sat down with Infinity Ward's Lee Ross for an inside look at the latest chapter.
I played this a little bit earlier, and I gotta say, so far, this is probably my favorite, just because I kind of like that 50s aesthetic.
There was sort of like this colorization period that films went through. Films that were sort of like the 30s, the 40s filmed in black and white. But then in the 50s, they went through this really awful, terrible coloring process.
Right.
Where they literally, somebody went in and frame by frame, like stencil colored in red and green and yada yada. Lord. But if you go back and watch films from that period, it's a very recognizable, noticeable thing. We did want to have sort of that feel, some of that graininess that you see, some of those artifacts that you see when we're in black and white.
So let's talk about the star, Cassandra Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
Let's, why, like, obviously we know why, but, like, what was it like working with her?
Part of it is that, you know, we needed a strong, representable character that could sort of talk about this time period, but also fit this time period. For those that are familiar with Elvira, you know, she was hosting her Movie Macabre feature that sort of made fun of these classic B-movie experiences that were from the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. And who better to talk about some really terrible B-movies than Elvira?
So that's it for us, but thank you guys for watching. We put a first 10 minutes up for this already, so if you want to be able to watch it without our jibber jabber over it, oh no, Lee, you went down. It's up on the website right now. But for Lee Ross, thank you for coming once again.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm Mark Medina. That's it. We'll see you guys next time.
Coming up next week on the IGN Show, we'll reveal more of the wrestling superstars coming to WWE 2K18, and maybe you'll smell what William Haynes is cooking.
Plus, we're heading to Gamescom, which is the biggest video game convention in Europe. We'll bring you coverage of all the latest games straight from Germany.
And as usual, we'll have reviews of all the latest games, previews, and exclusive gameplay you won't see anywhere else.
That does it for us.
Remember to keep it locked to IGN and check us out on Snapchat.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you later. So, Watch Dogs 2? Really?
Watch Dogs 2.
Oh, you're playing that?
Watch Dogs 2.
Okay. And what about your favorite TV show?
Watch Dogs 2.
Oh.
Game of Thrones, Dogs 2.